Welcome to the DMF. I am your host, Justin Yachts, and today my guest is Nachela Knox. This is part 2 of my interview with her. She is a director, an actress, a writer, and she did a film called Couch Party, which you can see on Tubi. Enjoy. So let's talk a little bit about. I watched Complicated.
Yes,
Talk a little bit about Complicated.
love Complicated.
Yeah.
So Complicated was or still is like my longest short film. But the
Yeah.
difference between Hidden Agenda and Complicated is Complicated, I was the writer, I was the director, I was also the editor, and certain parts of Complicated, I feel like I actually shot myself, like the ones that I weren't in. So I shot that
Mm.
myself. So I kind of did everything myself on that one, which was a huge experience for me because I know how to edit, but I do not like to edit.
Yeah, no, nobody does. I don't know. Actually, I met one guy that likes it, and I'm just like, how do you enjoy this?
It is like time consuming, and me, like, I feel like I get obsessive over it because I'm like, it has to be perfect. And then if there's something I can't do, or there's something that, I just don't have the skill set to do, then I get really frustrated because I'm like, oh my goodness. But love that film. It came at the right time. Complicated
Mm,
was the first film that I did when I moved to Winston-Salem. So after I graduated, I went back home to Greensboro, not Greensboro, sorry. I went back home to Charlotte, and then I moved to Winston-Salem because I was the head of film for G. Davis
mm,
Productions in Winston-Salem.
yeah,
So it was my first project I was doing, up in Winston. And I feel like it really just kind of spoke to me. It was a fun story. And it was really great to come together with like my friends at the time. And we knocked it out. We were all in my apartment, like all of the scenes that are like in the house, that's
yeah,
my apartment. So, that was brand new. That's when I had first got my little puppy. I have a Chipu. So
yeah. I
I
saw that on Facebook.
yeah. There's pictures of him on set. He was a little puppy. He's not even bigger than the slate. So
Yeah.
it was great. I was
Uh,
very proud because it let me know that I myself had the skill to go from start to finish by myself.
what I the scene that I really like in that movie is when you're pulling the makeup off, and
Yes.
you got the ECU, and I like that you just took the time, and you just let us all kind of really let us in. Like that's the scene that like kind of just bored into me. It's like, oh, I really like that scene.
Probably one of the most emotional scene to shoot.
Yeah.
Um, because Complicated was like loosely based off of like, crazy relationships that I personally had. So
Yeah.
to deal with somebody who literally was like verbally abusive like that and would make you kind of question like, things that you did all the time. So to kind of
Yeah.
go back and like relive that, even though, you're acting, you can still hit home. And I feel like
Yeah.
for women, especially when it comes to makeup. Makeup is something that, most women put on because they like it. Like it makes them feel better, or you know, you can really see their features that maybe you couldn't see with makeup on. So imagine doing all of that. You're thinking you look good, and somebody comes behind you and they're like, no, like, you look terrible, take that off. And they're like forcing you to take off something that you thought looked good. So now you feel insecure about yourself going out.
Yeah.
Great
Yeah.
scene. Probably one of my
Uh, the guy right before, he's basically dressing you down, which leads us into that scene where you're doing. You don't show it to him, but when you go in there, we see that he really affected you,
exactly.
and that I think is how a lot of abusive relationships start. It just starts with something verbal like that,
Mhm.
and not realizing that, and that just becoming the norm. And once that becomes the norm, it's really hard to get away from that. And you get like the Stockholm syndrome of like, oh, looking for it.
You literally start believing it. Like
Yeah.
with somebody that's super, verbally abusive, they'll start making you believe things that obviously aren't
Right.
true. It's not true to you, but they'll make you believe it because they talked
Yeah.
about it. So, you know. So yeah.
Well, I've watched some of your interviews. You've talked about the law of attraction, and we'll get to that in a little bit, but here I think it's applicable. People like to think of the law of attraction as it's only works for good things. It's like, no, it can work for bad things too. And in some ways, being in some kind of relationship like that almost puts you in the law of attraction of I'm not good enough.
It
And
does,
it's
and I
yeah,
think people don't even realize, like, me, love law of attraction. It's something I use every day, and I think it's
same
something,
here.
I don't think I would be where I am today if I hadn't discovered the law of attraction. Like, I remember being in school, and that's when I don't know if it's still on Netflix, but there used to be, like, a little documentary on Netflix called The Secret.
That's a good film.
Yes. So and they talked all about law of the attraction, and then, I started applying it and I could see that it was working, and I think that's still, like, my superpower today. Like,
Yeah.
say thing like, people sometimes say when they talk to me, it's almost kinda, like, amazing because I say things and I say it so confidently that people are like, "Oh, okay," like, she's gonna do that. She said she was gonna do that, so she's gonna do it. That was literally what happened with Couch Party. Before I had the money, before I had anything, I was like, "Imma finish the script, Imma film it, it's gonna be my first feature." So anytime somebody would talk to me, that would come out my mouth. Imma do this, do that, and then it gets done, and I think that's kinda like my superpower. Like, I literally can speak into existence.
It's interesting because, when you talk to, creative like us, you need that vision to be able
Right.
to see it before it actually has happened. And I think that's hard for people to grasp because everything is so reactionary. They're like, "Oh, I didn't get this," and but you're not looking at the longer term here. Okay, what is the longer story? Where do you really want to be? You didn't get that audition, but where do you want to be after that? Maybe if you got that audition, you wouldn't be on the road to where you want to be. And it's the same thing with that. You're visualizing, you're saying the words, you're confirming it. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to make this and it's going to happen. Not saying maybe it's going to be, just saying it's going to happen. Um, Another way you could say it is you could almost, they talk about seeing it and feeling it before it's actually happened, which I
Mhm,
think is the hardest thing to do. That's why I like Esther and Jerry Hicks, who were a part of the Secret, but
mhm.
they felt, I don't know, something happened that they let them get taken out, but when you see The Secret, it misses that part of how it works, and
Right.
they're, like, the best at explaining how it works, and it's all about that feeling, but you gotta feel that even when you're not really wanting to feel it, so it's that process of feeling something before it's happened, and
It
it's
Oh, I was just gonna say, it is, but I think for me too, you kinda have to figure out, like, how you can tie it in. Like me, I'm a religious person, I'm a Christian, so for me, it ties back in with faith. Like,
yeah,
I believe that, God is gonna do everything that he said he was gonna do for me, whether that's tomorrow, next year, 3 years from now, 10 years from now. I still believe that. I wake up every day and I believe that. Like, I wake up every day and I believe that, even though I can't tell you when, I can't tell you how, I can't
yeah,
tell you, I know that, I didn't get placed here to not be a director. Like, I know
yeah,
that's what I'm here for. I have the faith in that, and I have the faith that, he's gonna bring that to fruition, and I feel like that comes with the law of attraction too, because it's like, I believe this, it's now a part of me, so now everything I do around it is just attracting all of that to me. I think that's a
yeah,
big too, if you're
yeah,
really
yeah, yeah, no, 'cause I do wanna talk about more of the law of attraction, but let's go to now Couch Party. One thing I wanted to ask is the original title was, what is the original title? I
coma
wanna make sure that what is it?
coma couch.
Coma Couch. Why did I write Coma Sofa? I knew it was wrong, and I was like, "There's something wrong on here." It was like, I know it's coma, but I couldn't but I wrote Coma Sofa. I'm like, "That doesn't make sense." Yeah,
Yeah.
Coma Couch. So, how did that, let's go back to talking about, Couch Party, how that came about, like, where did the idea, present itself to you?
Yeah, so I was a part of, like, a writers group,
Mm,
and We were trying to figure out different ideas and things. So basically, the deal was in this writers group that you would work with the guy, and if he liked your idea and liked the script, he would then go and produce the scripts. So at that time, it sounded great because I'm like, oh, like this is a good opportunity for me. So I'm in the writers group, and we're trying to figure out different ideas. And so when I first got my apartment, I got this big sectional, and everybody that would come over when they sat on the couch, they would go to sleep. Like it never failed. Anybody who came and sat on that couch went to sleep. So we kind of made a joke and called the couch, oh, it's the coma couch. So like if somebody fell asleep on the couch, they'd be like, oh, the coma couch got me. So when we were talking about brainstorming, I was like, oh, like if I have this couch, what if like, girls were somehow using this couch to get money? Couch party. And we just kind of ran with it from there.
Interesting. That's great. So it just came from that like simple idea of somebody sitting on on your sofa and just falling into coma. I assume you kind of changed the name. Is there like coma couch? Sounds like a horror movie.
Down to getting distribution, a lot of the people we were dealing with, they really liked the film, but they didn't like the title. They were like, we don't think that'll sell, or some people were saying like, they thought that it would invoke negative feelings.
Yeah. Coma couch.
Yeah,
It sounds like a couch that where you fall into a deep coma.
I mean that's essentially what it is.
But
So,
yeah, no, when you're dealing with distribution stuff, yeah, they're like, oh, let's go. Yeah. Have you ever seen that Christopher Guest movie where he makes they're making a movie, it's called Home for Purim, and by the end of it, it's just called Home for Thanksgiving.
yeah, that first one is like it's like when you're in that creative space, you come up with a
Yeah,
title and you think it's the best thing ever because that's what you came
yeah,
up with. And then like after you say it or hear other people say it, or like you get the distribution and they bring up all these things you didn't think about, you're like, okay, guys, we can change the name. Like
yeah, yeah,
and now I've gotten used to Couch Party. I think it's definitely a little bit
yeah,
more fitting. It's a little bit more fun.
yeah,
So
yeah. It invokes fun. Oh, party, couch,
exactly.
coma couch. Like, oh my god, is this a horror film? Am
Yeah.
I going to die? It's about a couch that kills people. Yeah. But you shot that in 5 days.
5 days, 5 long days. Yes.
Talk about that, because that's something where you have to really have your stuff together to be able to do something like that.
Yeah, so I also first AD, so I do that quite a bit as well. So when it comes to scheduling and things like that, I would say, I'm pretty good at that. So I actually planned everything out. And what happened was, even though I'm great at planning, there's also the things that you can't plan for, like the restaurant, being like, hey, y'all can't shoot here anymore, or
Yeah, yeah.
actors not showing up or,
Oh my god, yeah,
so it got to the point where I was like, okay, the original script for Couch Party or Coma Couch, the original script was like 120 pages, which
mm.
now that I know what I know is entirely too long. You will not get in 120.
Especially for a comedy. I mean, this is comedies vary more on the shorter side.
Exactly. So what we did was when we got to the point where we were like, hey, we're probably gonna run out of time and nobody has money to, add additional days on here. We went
Yeah,
through the script and literally X'd out everything that we were like, this isn't necessary. We can piece this together if we do this. We went through, and at that point, it was like, okay, this is what we have left to shoot. Anything that we couldn't get to, we figured out a way to piece it together or figured out, like, okay, no, we're not going to do this. Also, couldn't spend a lot of time on the scenes, which is something that, I would actually like to do for my
mm,
next project. I feel like everything had to be pretty quick, 2, 3 takes, we got it, let's go. I would
yeah,
like time to spend because I think for me, I think one of my skills is when I do cast, I tend to pick actors who, not to say they don't need direction, but like they learn the character so well, and that's what I want. I don't want to tell you how to do everything. I want to give
Yeah.
you the situation and let you play with it. Like I want to see what your version is. And if there's something there I don't like or I think could be better, we'll talk about that. So my
Yeah.
actors were great. They learned all the lines. They were really good at that. And what they didn't know, they made it work and it worked.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
just a lot of planning, honestly. And being
Interesting.
able to think on the fly. Because there's some people where if they get told no or something doesn't go according to plan, they
Yeah.
break down, the world is over, and now they don't know what they're gonna do, you know? Me, I'm like, "Okay,
Yeah.
we can't do this. Alright, so what can we do? Because 'Cause we're gonna do it. We're getting it
Yeah.
done. How are we gonna
Yeah.
fix?"
Exactly. It's very, yeah, very run and gun, you know. I'm just surprised. Yeah, actors show. That's so sad. See, I think actors sometimes give themselves a bad reputation because one person does that, and now the director remembers that.
Mhm,
Yeah,
and I forget.
it's so it's and it contaminates, the actor's, job. But I mean, it's unfortunate. I mean, there's a lot of actors that won't, read the script, won't, they
But
just read their lines.
to me, one of the things that I had to learn that I'm so
Mm,
big on now is that, I totally understand there's levels to everything. And you
yeah,
can't start off on the high level when you first start. You just can't. So for
yeah,
me, I'm like, to me, I feel like the level that I'm on now is like I can't go below being a professional. And if you
yeah,
are showing up to my set and you don't know your lines or whatever, then that
yeah,
means that you're not a professional and therefore we can't
yeah,
work. Like I can only
exactly.
work with professionals at this point because it's like I'm past the stage of like being a rookie or being like, oh, like this
Yeah,
is something we're doing for fun. I'm like, no, this is a business.
mhm,
Like this is a business, this is a career. Therefore, I'm gonna be professional. I need everybody around me to be professional or you just can't come, period.
yeah.
So
Show up, know your stuff. Is this no time? There's no time, especially on that shoot when you've got 5 days. There's no time to. Everybody's got to know the stuff.
yeah.
Um, if you had more time, I mean, it's still good. You want to know your lines so that you can play around. That's the fun part. You do the homework, you do the work, you do the character work, you read books, you learn about the character and learn things, and then you can play around with it. If you're just, I don't know my lines, it's like, what can you do? Yeah.
Like, though, if you're an actor and you're a professional actor, then like, not knowing your lines doesn't just affect you, it affects the whole production, and I feel like if you
Yeah.
know that's why you don't do those things because you literally know, like, "Hey, if I don't know my lines and I'm making them do, like, 10 takes, I'm now costing
Yeah.
this producer money."
Well, went from 3 takes is now, 10 takes, 20 takes,
And now we're 3 hours behind because I didn't
Yeah. Yeah.
know.
Stanley Kubrick talks about that. What was it? Vincent D'Onofrio came to talk to our school, and he told us how this guy kept messing up his line, but Stanley is a very interesting guy, eccentric guy. He didn't tell him what he was doing wrong, so he just kept saying the take number, and he'd be like, "Take number this, take number that, take." Or it would have been much better if he just, went up to him there. But the point is, yeah, you got to know your stuff. Okay, that about does it for part two of my interview with Nachela Knox. I want to thank her personally. As always, you can find me at Justin Yachts. Please like, share, and subscribe, and consider checking out the YouTube channel. And I will see you next time on the DMF.